The XFM 10th birthday documentaries. 4 unbelievably talented teenagers from the north of England. And a debut album that left the public, the critics and other bands open-mouthed and overjoyed. No, it's not the Beatles. They didn't sell as many as this lot. Arctic Monkeys, whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. As we celebrate our 10th birthday, we're going to look back at the 10 most influential and significant albums of the last decade. And we start with the Arctic Monkeys debut on XFM.
Mum called me balmy when I told her I fell off a gasometer for a bit. But I'm not balmy. I'm a fighting pit prop that wants a pint of beer, that's me. But if any knowing bastard says that's me, I'll tell him I'm a dynamite dealer waiting to blow the factory to kingdom come. I'm me and nobody else. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. Because they don't know a bloody thing about me.
They're just switched on. They're running it as well, you know. They're making all the decisions. They can pretty much do what they want.
When people pass it off as sort of this internet phenomenon, it like Ray gets under the skin, if you know what I mean.
Energy, attitude and wit. If anyone who can get a line in with Montagues and Capulets into a pop song, I think is genius.
Kind of described what it were like to be of a certain age at a certain time. You know, it's like a snapshot in it. Plus it's just banging, it's just great tunes.
We tried to push on like musically and sort of do something a bit different and put a lot of thought and work into it.
This is the story behind the fastest selling debut album in UK chart history. The story behind perhaps the most significant British album of the past decade. I'm Matt Everett, and this is the making of Arctic Monkeys. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. Alex Turner, Jamie Cook, Matt Helders and Andy Nicholson grew up in or near the village of High Green, just north of Sheffield, and had known each other since childhood, with Nicholson, Helders and Turner all attending Stockbridge High School. As has been documented many times, Turner and Helders weren't primarily fans of guitar music. Alex.
Cook were always into bands, I think, like before, like at school and that. Yeah, and we used to like sort of bits of hip hop and all that sort of stuff as well. But everyone we all liked Oasis and stuff. But I used to be into like Roots Maneuver and all that sort of thing. Cook and us lot sort of met on the Strokes, you know, Strokes and Coral and all that sort of thing. And we all liked that in the band. And then that's like probably why we started being a bit indie and that. And we just liked the idea of a band, I think, and just like playing. Before we sort of liked any bands, if you know what I mean.
After asking for and receiving guitars as Christmas presents in 2001, Cook and Turner started teaching themselves to play, and accompanied by Helders and his newly acquired drum kit and bassist Nicholson, they began to rehearse together. John McClure from Reverend of the Makers recalls how Alex briefly became a member of his band, Jude and Suki, around that time.
I met Alex on a bus. I had this guy who were playing guitar in my band at the time, like we were only kids, and he went off to Palestine, and then we needed a rhythm guitarist, so I met Alex on a bus, and I was like, can you play guitar? You look cool. And he was only like 16 or something at the time. He was like, yeah, well, alright, you're in. And off we went, and we've been friends ever since.
However, Alex remained loyal to his own outfit, newly named Arctic Monkeys, and soon they started gigging. And did these early shows give any indication of their imminent greatness?
They were rubbish, really. But you knew they had something. They were like a thing there, you know. But yeah, they were rubbish. They did like cover versions, and I think they did a White Stripes, a Vines, a Jimi Hendrix. And it were pretty shambolic, but at the same time, they were like an X Factor. Could tell they'd got something going on.
The band started to attract a dedicated and passionate audience, and with help from manager Jeff Barradell, who joined them after their third gig, they started playing shows across the north of England, all the time distributing free copies of the demos that they'd been recording, and it was to be these demos that would kickstart their career. Alex.
There used to be like, we'd go in for a day or 2 days, and then the first one we ever did was like one that we just sort of like saved up for and went and did these 3 songs, and then that's how like we met like the fella that became his manager sort of thing after that demo, and then like subsequently he like kind of knew the bloke in the studio, so sort of desired to get some to do the ones after that. But yeah, we used to do like 3 songs in a day or like in like 2 days or something, and just sort of mix it all there, and it would go pretty fast.
Fellow Sheffield musician Richard Hawley remembers hearing them for the first time.
On previous albums of mine, I used to record with a guy called Alan Smythe in a little studio called Two Fly. I asked him to play me what he'd been working on with local bands, you know, and the Monkees were one of them. And what struck me about them was the lyrics, you know, the melodic strength. There weren't many kind of guitar bands that were concentrating on the lyrics as much, you know. And it was the pared down sound that I really, really liked.
John McClure.
They started doing some demos, and like although the playing was shambolic, Alan Smythe had like knitted it together, and you were just like, and then suddenly he started doing his Yorkshire accent thing rather than trying to be American or whatever. And I remember going to see him in York, and there were like 7 people there, and we just drove up, like, oh, we'll come and watch you, like. And I remember watching him, and it was just like, hang on, this is like not like everyone else. There's a thing here.
Songs from these demos, recorded every 3 months or so, soon began to find their way onto the internet, courtesy of fans. One, a local photographer, Mark the Sheriff Bull, posted a collection of 14 tracks to download free on his own site, under the title Beneath the Boardwalk. One of these songs would eventually appear on the band's debut EP, 5 Minutes with Arctic Monkeys, which came out on the band's own Big Bang Recordings label in May 2005. The song was Fake Tales of San Francisco. Alex.
That were on the demo after Dance Floor. That were on the same demo with Mardy Rum and Certain Romance, which was like, I think that was towards the end of 2004.
The track sees Alex slating local musicians obsessed with mimicking the style of American bands. Matt.
Yeah, it was just like a lot of bands that we played with, because we were doing a lot of gigs, like not just in Sheffield, outside of Sheffield when we were first starting to play away from home. So we were supporting people, the people were supporting us, and you just saw it all, really. Every cliche.
Fake tales of San Francisco echo through the room.
I think if you were saying it and you're grabbing them, you would just say that. Like,
the way teenagers are today, they're not. These bands aren't very good.
Even if I don't think it'd be that harsh if you said, you know, they were.
Yeah.
I remember there were a dispute whether we were going to leave it on or not. To be honest, I think that got forgotten about.
And then we just left it, so it could have not been there.
Only 3,500 copies of 5 Minutes with Arctic Monkeys were made, but the EP, an intense gigging schedule, and an expanding audience who'd been given their demos or heard songs online had started to create an undeniable buzz around the band. The resultant record company Scrum saw the group fighting off a series of huge record deals before eventually signing with Lawrence Bell's label Domino, home of Franz Ferdinand, in June 2005.
Get on your dancing shoes. There's one thing on your mind.
Around this time, producer Jim Abyss, famous for his work with Placebo, editors Kasabian and Uncle, became aware of the band.
I heard of them word of mouth. Someone said, you've got to check this band out. They've put some demos on MySpace, and I just loved them from the word go. The first thing that comes across, apart from the energy in it, was just Alex's ability at storytelling, which is a rare gift, especially someone so young to kind of write about such a varied list of topics, and the depth and the humour he wrote about them was kind of, I thought, way beyond his years.
The press, however, were quick to claim the Arctic Monkeys were an internet phenomenon, the first band to get recognised through the power of MySpace, though the group have always been insistent that it wasn't as simplistic as that. Alex and Matt.
I think that was more in fact like a timing thing than it being like us, you know what I mean? Like, it was just loads of bands give the demos away all the time, don't they? Like, you know, always did at like the gigs, and we just did that really, and it just so happened that it were at that time when, I suppose, I don't know, like technology or whatever you want to call it. Like you said though, like that's because we had, like, you know, we were playing like exciting gigs and we had good tunes, you know what I mean, more than anything else.
With the record deal signed and interest in the band increasing all the time, thoughts turned to making an album. Alex.
We had a lot of songs together. I can remember that were like ambition, sort of, make an album. I remember like thinking that's I want to do that. Yeah, and we got round to it in the summer.
The band had started working on tracks with Simeon Mobile Disco's James Ford, recording the song Bigger Boys and Stolen Sweethearts.
First met the Arctics quite a while back. Like, I nearly made the first record, but it didn't quite work out because of politics, and people were, obviously it was just kicking off, and I'm an unknown producer, you know, and so I didn't quite have the trust to deliver the such a seminal debut, which is a shame because, you know, obviously I could have made it better than the guy who did it, but No, Jim. No, it was really good.
Jim Abyss.
I kind of registered my interest with Lawrence, and I think probably most producers in their right mind did exactly the same thing. And he said, well, thanks, mate, but I think we're going to go down certain paths. And I didn't hear anything else about it for a while, and I was on holiday, and I got a call out of the blue saying, we need to get some recording done. Are you up for doing it?
It was honestly really an amazing fun. They're amazing guys, really creative, really funny, and had a blast, really.
So I got home, drove to Sheffield, and watched them play a gig at the Grapes. It was not unlike going to a conventional gig. It was like going to a party or a celebration where everyone just had a great time and just sang the words to songs that they knew inside out. And I just stood there thinking, if we can get anywhere near this energy on tape, then it's got to be on the way to a great record.
Band and producers set up at Chapel Studios in South Thoresby, Lincolnshire, to start work on the album and to get to know each other. Alex.
We never really spent that much time in studios, and we're not kind of that technical or anything. We don't really know that much. But but he did bring some good ideas in, Jim and that.
They were quiet. They were their own little gang. I think they were unsure about the whole studio experience. I'd only just met them just before we were potentially going to go and work, and I think they were probably a bit wary. Like, who's this guy going to come in? Is he going to make our sound this or that? So it was a kind of wary meeting at first.
But the band approached it no differently from their demo sessions. Matt.
It didn't seem that different from each other. From only, like, obviously some equipment and facilities were a bit better from what we did with his demos. But I don't know. It didn't seem like a big shock when we went into a bigger studio and to record an album or anything.
For me, it was getting a sound that represented them, and then getting takes that allowed you to hear everything he said.
The first song to be recorded and the first track on the album was The View from the Afternoon, which opens with the line, "Anticipation has a habit to set you up for disappointment." Alex.
Kind of only realised that about a week, a couple of weeks ago.
We mentioned it the other day. Like,
and then just after I mentioned it, like, people started going, "That's good, that's your first line, It's really clever."
I remember when we first started playing it, one of the reasons we just wanted to start it, because it like kicked off like straight away. It, like, imagine turning on an album and hearing that first. You'd be thinking, what's this? I remember just when we used to practice it, we thought that'd be a good song to start his album with.
Anticipation has a habit to set you up for disappointment in evening entertainment, but tonight there'll be some love. You've got to understand that you can never be the bandit.
It was one of the later ones though, like one of the last ones that sort of got written for it. It's one of my favourite title, I think, that we've ever come up with. But it is exactly that. It's like the sort of anticipation for the evening ahead or whatever.
You should better imagine that, better in my head, you should better.
Jim Abyss.
We had an extremely limited amount of time to make the record. It was almost like going back to the 60s making the record, because we had 15 days, because they were booked in for tours and there were scheduled radio releases and things. They really didn't want to break obligations, so we had a day to set up, a day per song to record, and one day at the end to finish off any little jobs.
We did it over 3 weeks, but we went home for weekends, for most weekends. But we near enough did do a track a day. But it went like as it seems, like we started it morning and finished it at night. We just kind of started a new track every day, whether we finished it within 24 hours or not.
It became very exciting, living on adrenaline a lot of the time, because you were getting a few hours kit, getting back up, setting up for the next song.
Not all the songs the band worked on were re-recorded demos. Some were newer, like "You Probably Couldn't See the Lights, But You Were Looking Straight at Me."
That's the newest one. I don't know, just about someone that we met. But it's got nothing to do with like a club or all like that, or going out or any of that. But I think it's more about just like this person that we knew that were in a group. That